Hello everyone, welcome to News Extra, and it's that time of year again. We have a pharmaceutical take-back being conducted by Keep Scottsbluff Gearing Beautiful, and I have board member Susan Wiedeman with me, who's also the marketing director for Panhandle Co-op, as well as executive director Cassidy Baum. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Let's talk first about the event coming up here on the 19th.
Okay, the event on the 19th is going to be our fall pharmaceutical take back for Keep Scottsbluff Gearing Beautiful. We did one in the spring, and we're doing another one here in the fall. It will be in the event space next to the Wine and Spirit store in the Panhandle Co-op Plaza. It is $5 for each individual drop-off, and if you have a business that you're dropping off a lot of sharps, and I think that's one thing that this is very different than a lot of dropping things off at the kiosks or anything, is that we actually do take sharps. And so if you're a business like a doctor's office and you have a lot of needles and a lot of sharps, we do charge the businesses $250.
Okay, because there is a cost that's associated with disposal of these things in the proper manner. Talk a little bit about what's involved with, first of all, putting this together.
Yeah, well, first we write the grants through the Nebraska Department of Environmental Quality, and if we're awarded the grants, we contract with Clean Harbors out of Denver is the office that we use, and they send a truck and a chemist to our event. So it's an expense. You know, the bids come in anywhere from $9,000 to $13,000, and then it just depends on how much material we actually collect for what we're billed in the end.
And of course, the old days of, you know, take your old pharmaceuticals, flush them down the toilet. Those need to be gone.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, there are lots of options available actually to dispose of pharmaceuticals within our community. There's the kiosks that both cities have. Some of the pharmacists take some stuff back. Most of them don't. The pharmacists won't take back the scheduled narcotics. That's one thing that we do take and dispose of properly. And then we are the only entity that takes back sharps within our community.
And that's actually very important because handling sharps properly in the days before HIV and AIDS, people didn't think that much about sharps, but these days it's very important, especially when you hear about, you know, sharps being left all over the place in LA and San Francisco, and obviously we don't want those types of things sitting around where somebody can get poked.
Yeah, and just disposing of them at the landfill. You know, and landfill employees, when they're out working, I've been told, you know, they're stuck in their boots.
And Susan, you're of course a council member for the city of Gearing. Obviously, you've heard some of those things.
Yes, you know, when they'll say they will walk across the landfill if they have to check something out, and they said you'd be surprised how many of these things are stuck to their boots. So you're kind of like, well, it's a safety issue.
Sure.
You know, the whole take back when we started it 13, 14 years ago was more environmental. It was an environmental issue due to people flushing drugs down the toilet. So the main thing was trying to keep pharmaceuticals out of the water. Then you have, in our population here in Scottsbluff and Gearing, we have a high amount of people that either have diabetes and use sharps, and most of the time when they drop them off, they are in like a hard plastic, like a bottle that's in your detergent and laundry detergent, and we appreciate that because sometimes people just put them in a plastic bag and hand them to us, and that's a little scary. The other thing with the environmental issue is just trying to keep that stuff out of the landfill, keep that away from water treatment plants. When you flush pharmaceuticals, the water treatment system doesn't take everything out. It can't because of all of these minute particles. And some of those things never really do dissolve either. So that's why it's important not to flush them down the toilet. And then, like I said, that was the environmental issue. And with the opioid crisis, we now have a whole nother social issue. And that is why we partner with the Scottsbluff and Gearing Police Department. That day, George Holthus, Chief Holthus will be there, and then Brian Wasson from Scottsbluff will probably be there. And I know, you know, when we first started it, they didn't think it was, you know, oh, wow, we really don't need to be there. But they have been there probably for, I would say, the last 6 years, and amazed at how much stuff we take back.
And of course, if you do drop off materials at the pharmaceutical take back, there's actually a proper way to bring them in. We'll be back on News Extra in just a moment, talk a little bit more about that. And we're back on News Extra. We're talking about the Pharmaceutical Take Back being put on by Keep Scottsbluff Gearing Beautiful, coming up on the 19th of October from 10 until noon at the conference center, the event space next to Main Street Market Wine and Spirits. I have Susan Wiedeman with me here from Panhandle Co-op, as well as Cassidy Baum from Keep Scottsbluff Gearing Beautiful. Again, thank you very much for joining us. We were talking a little bit about sharps earlier. When it comes to bringing medications and things such as that to an event such as this, how important is it to bring them in the original container?
It's very important. Yes, we have a pharmacist and we have a chemist there, but when you hand that to us, we know right away where it needs to go and what person it needs to see. And if it's sharps, think about the safety for those of us that are going to be handling it. If you have it in a hard plastic bottle, that's great. But
label it.
But label it.
Yes.
Say label it at Sharps, or tell one of us, because usually two of us are outside, and so people can just pull up. They hand it to us. They give us the $5, and once again, there is a $5 fee,
which is nominal. Really, considering what you guys are having to handle. So.
Yeah, is nominal, and we do have some people that get a little upset about it, but when it costs us $10,000 to $15,000 to put on an event like this, to help keep these things out of the hands of people that shouldn't have them, or kids. It's a small price to pay. That's right. I've had calls where people have said, I need to get rid of this right away. Where do I take it? And then I will tell them the different places. You can bring it, and granted, you can take them there for no cost. But when we have this, you can't put sharps in those kiosks.
Yeah.
And so a few years ago, we were taking back more sharps than we were pills.
And when we're talking sharps, we're not just talking about needles. We're talking about anything that's used
Lancets.
to draw blood, lancets.
Expired EpiPen.
Yeah, all kinds of different things. If it can poke you in a medical way, then you need to have it properly labeled and secured, so when you drop it off, it's safe. And of course, you also want to have, if you have any scheduled opioids or anything like that are scheduled prescription drugs, original bottles are important, and definitely separate it out from anything else you might be bringing in.
Yeah, we get variety bags a lot where everybody, they want to.
It's a travel bag. I put a little of everything
dump
together.
Everything in a plastic bag, and at that point, if our pharmacist sees a scheduled narcotic in there, it all has to be disposed of in a different location than the other pills, and so it's best original containers. We can quickly tell what it is, get it to where it needs to be, and then we recycle. We'll empty the pills out of the containers that can be. There's some that are for the safety of our volunteers, have to stay in their containers as well. And then we recycle as much of the plastic and cardboard as we can.
Yeah, definitely. And very important from a safety and a health perspective to bring your pharmaceuticals, especially, and that includes over-the-counter drugs that are perhaps expired. Perhaps you had a loved one that's passed away and they had a cabinet full of medication. Definitely bring those by for a nominal fee of $5 to get rid of those. And for businesses, it is a little more expensive, $250.
Correct.
That's coming up. The Keep Scottsbluff Gearing Beautiful Pharmaceutical Take Back at the Panhandle Co-op Main Street Market Wine and Spirits event center, or event space next to Main Street Market's Wine and Spirits on the 19th from 10 until noon. Susan, Cassidy, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.